Game 4. Black starts the endgame with a complete equality. This game we'll have a look at is Luka Lenic, 26-13 rated, versus Lequang Liem, 26-64 from the Airflot Open, February 2011, which I believe Quang Liem was, I think he won the entire event. So, I'm going to fly through the game. We're going to fly through the game to a pretty endgame strategy position. It's worth just having a look how he gets there. Roxy bind, traditional knight c5 and queen b6. Pops his queen, an old Geller idea of queen h8, and queen sits on f6, and just so white has won a pawn, but in exchange for which black suddenly gets quite active against the king, and white walks into a pin. Black comes up with an ingenious way to try and grab the black squares, but white decides to sacrifice his queen for 2 rooks, and then we get to our key meaty position. So this is the endgame strategy position. We're going to start that, and we just do a quick stock take. 2, 4, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. White is a pawn up and has the 2 rooks. Now, most people will appreciate that 2 rooks are better than a queen in an endgame. However, there's a caveat to that. It's normally if the rooks are well coordinated. And here you can see that black has decided to restrict their coordination. So that could come under restriction here. Activate your pieces, not your king, to restricting squares first. So this is a level position, I would say, at this point. It's a complicated level position, mainly because despite black's deficit on points, he has some attack, and white should be actually being concerned about this attack. If white does that, then white will be okay, but if he doesn't, there is some danger to the white position. So white should be looking to play g3 at some point, and maybe king g2. That should be white's priority. However, this is a strong grandmaster, Lenic. He did a different approach, and from this level position black outplayed white. So we're going to have a look at black and white strategy, and we're going to determine as to why black's strategy was successful. So let's have a look at the key factors again. What's going on? Tactics and calculation important. Activate the pieces. Are all white's pieces active? You could argue the white bishop isn't active. Passed pawns, is that a relevant factor? There's no passed pawns. Who's won the opponent's centre? Well, that's a tricky one, isn't it? But I would say black has won it for the pieces, white has won it for the pawns. Psychology, I couldn't really tell on that, but I'm sure 2600 people have good psychology. What is the goal here? Now, sometimes cloudy goals can affect this number 7 principle here, number 7, because if you can't understand the assessment properly, if it's too complicated, you can't 100% dedicate yourself to the next tiny incremental step, which is what you should be doing. If you know what your assessment is, try and go that little tiny bit further. Tiny steps. That's what you should aim for. And if your opponent isn't playing well, you'll suddenly get a huge leap. But you aim for those tiny steps to increase your advantage. What else is happening here? Mating, attack, initiative, central, initiative and centre. Well, you could say that's all encapsulated with this queen here. It's got the potential attack, possibly a mating attack, if, for example, this knight could somehow participate and queen takes f2 and mate. Bit fantastic, but you never know. What about the initiative? Can black get the initiative? Well, he could march this pawn down and maybe march the other pawn down and play a pawn to g3. That could be dangerous. That would be pretty good. And any initiative in the centre? No, there's no obvious initiative in the centre here. White's got good grip with it with his pawns. Right, but now black, can black increase his advantage? Well, yes, he can, if he starts marching those pawns down or manoeuvring his knight to a better square. Can white do the same? How can white improve his position? Well, all of white's pieces, you could argue, aren't that good, but it is quite difficult to improve them without allowing some sort of dangerous counterplay. So, and does black at this position have the 2 important accents needed to win? I don't believe he has, but I'll tell you when that might happen. So this is a level position, which is what this game is about. Again, from the top we have looked at Rouse and Storey, which was decisive endgame for black. At the start we've looked at Gretesen Gustafsson, which was a large advantage for black, then converted. We've looked at black starts with a small advantages, which was Arkle Storey, and now we're looking at black starts with a complete equality. So let's see how black's strategy unfolds here. Black's main strategy will be to stop these rooks getting coordinated and winning some of the pawns. Black, on the other hand, will try and attack the king position and take advantage of this pin. Let's see how play progresses. H4, B4. Takes B4. So white is trying to activate his rook and coordinate his rooks, possibly with rook B5, where it's going to hit all of these pawns and then probably come on the 7th row. Black immediately wants to try and get some activity. Now black has noticed he can use number 1 priority here. Tactical ideas, he could say, and calculation. Now his idea is he's found that knight G3 is actually an immune square. It's immune from capture from the pawn, otherwise the pawn will take and black will get a mating attack. So that number 1 and 8, as you can see, are often connected with one another. Tactics and calculation can sometimes lead to mating attacks in the endgame. So how does play continue? White tries to coordinate his rooks. Rook D5, Queen E3. Now obviously white doesn't want, correction, black doesn't want white just to get this pinned rook into the game. So white continues to try to do it, and black again stays on this diagonal. He doesn't want this rook to just come into the game and start powering up against the weak pawns. He's restricting it. He's restricting one of our principles. Activate your pieces, not yes. And black is trying to disallow white from activating that rook on F2. So rook to D5. Can you see how this is connected to white trying to activate this rook? White would like to play a pawn to C5, and that would free up white's pieces. Now watch what happens. Knight G3, C5. Mission accomplished, you could say, for white. So that was quite good, but black wants to capture that pawn on C5, and he's trying to move the rook. Rook goes to D7, where it's got a powerful threat if rook takes D7. But black realizes he has to give up that pawn to keep this pressure on, and black also has a nice little tactic up his sleeve, which is quite a surprise tactic. It's possible even a grandmaster could miss it. Let's have a look. Queen takes a C5. How is this coming with our principles? Yes, our endgame strategy, tactics. There's a pin on here. He's keeping the pin on. He's really fought hard for that. Has black activated his pieces? Yes. Remember, black does win this position from the level position we saw earlier against a strong grandmaster. Has he marched his king to the centre? No, he hasn't done that, not yet. Passed pawns. Is there any passed pawns? No, there's no passed pawns at the moment. Has black won his opponent's centre? Well, I would say yes. He's starting to be in a position to say yes, he has won the opponent's centre. So that's quite a lot of the first 5 principles. Psychology, can't really touch on that. Can black suddenly, who was level and was probably struggling for a draw, could you now say his goal is to try and get some advantage? Well, you would say no, unless you were completely aware of black's main tactical idea, which is in fact knight to H1, a very difficult move to see, because it's such a rare move. Rare moves are sometimes difficult for human beings to see. Rook takes f7 was played. King to h6. Now that king is super safe, and the white gets the rook, but the rook takes that pawn. But the final move, knight h1, I think it was a bit of a surprise, but it's such a good move and a good idea. If you can see these moves and ideas here, tactics and calculation, if you see these moves, these ideas from way back, then you play them, sometimes it's too late. They're going to be played. You've used your skill, your calculation skill, visualization skill to get you that advantage. And white resigned after knight h1. It's a very pretty move. Obviously if king takes, black, who persisted so long on that diagonal, will get his reward. Queen takes f2, but that will also then force a back row checkmate. So let's have a look at the strategy involved in this game. Just take it back another move. White won a pawn, black got a little bit of activity, and then black went for the endgame. He went for this strange sort of endgame. Now normally players would love this position with white, because the two rooks and the extra pawn should be enough for the queen. Yes, they should, but there was some dynamic forces at work here. Black prevented the mobility of the rooks. He restricted them. Let's have a look. There's our 2. Remember these 1 and 2. If you could only take these 2 principles onto a desert island, then if you could only take 2 of these 10 principles onto a desert island for your chess ability in your chess games, then it would be these 2. It wouldn't be any of the other 2 really. These are the most frequent guys you got to be constantly vigilant of. Okay, from the top, let's have a get. So here we go. It was a quick blast through. How did black win it? Well, he got all of his pieces liberated. He really fought to keep that rook on f2 restricted. He fought with every little last breath. He managed to do it, and he got his reward with knight h1. Was the centre involved? Let's have a look what was involved in that one. Tactics, yes. Activated all of his pieces, yes. He eventually got his knight in. Look at it, it was the knight that got the one game. The sap principle. How long did it take to get there? The slow arrival principle, but it was worth it when it got there. Passed pawns wasn't that relevant. Win the opponent's centre, a little bit relevant. Psychology, can't touch on that. Understand being realistic, play at the goal, be realistic. Black was very realistic, kept it small, kept it level, and then he carved out an opportunity. Mate and attack, yes. Number 8 came in. These guys almost sit together, 1 and 8. Okay, and how did black increase his advantage? Well, he increased his advantage was directly connected with these 2. Now remember, chess is a complicated game. I'm trying to make it simple for you here by using these principles. I would argue these are the best principles in the world for trying to understand endgame strategy. They're the most evolved that I'm aware of. So that was a very interesting game on black winning from complete equality. Let's get on to our final game.